When was the last time you took a deep breath, brother? Be honest with me now. If I was to ask you to define both introvert and extrovert respectively, what sort of definitions would you give me? When defining an introvert, I would expect you to say something along the lines of a quiet, shy, reserved kind of person. And when defining an extrovert, I would expect something more along the lines of a confident, loud, and charismatic kind of person. I probably would have said something similar not too long ago, before I was better informed. Because to be honest with you, both of these definitions are objectively wrong and based entirely off of stereotypes. I don't blame you though, because even the fucking Oxford Dictionary of English has it twisted. I mean, I am an introvert and I would never class myself as a shy person. The real definitions are actually slightly more complex and come down to how different kinds of people both deplete and recharge their internal batteries. I want you to think of humans as phones. Alright, you recognize this little thing, right? We all have one, unfortunately. And obviously on our phones we have these little ports, alright, where the charger slots in nicely. An extrovert would be energized by their outer world, by the external, by things separate from them. So they would be metaphorically on charge when maybe working with others or taking part in activities, or just when generally observing or appreciating something outside of themselves. So for example, this piece of artwork right here. It's nice, isn't it? Thank you. I made it, by the way. Link down in the description if you want your own. On the other hand, an introvert is the opposite, so they are energized by the internal, by their inner world. They might be plugged in when maybe not a lot is going on. They have time for reflection, they have time to process things. They don't necessarily have to be alone, but very often that is the case. And if we take a look at this from the other side, extroverts will be losing charge, they'll be unplugged when they are given that time for introspection. Maybe they're alone, maybe not a lot is going on in their environment, and they're not getting that stimulation. Whereas an introvert would lose charge if a lot is going on, if they're having to put their focus on things outside themselves for a long period of time. That's when they would start to feel like, damn, I feel like I'm losing a bit of energy here. That's not to say that it's bad if an introvert is having to be social or if an extrovert is having to be on their own. I mean, when your phone dies, it's not gone forever. Just plug it back in. And in this case, it's kind of a what doesn't kill you makes you stronger kind of situation, getting yourself outside of your comfort zone. But these are just examples of things that would drain your internal battery for both types of people respectively. Now that a little bit of context has been established, hello, I am introverted, believe it or not. I have been my whole life, I guess. A lot of experience in the field. Could call me a guru of sorts of introversion, I guess, if you wanted to. No one calls me that, but I would definitely say my introversion has impacted my life quite a lot. It's affected my relationship with others and myself, for better or for worse. But it's definitely something that I've come to get along with over time, which I cannot say was an easy process. And I know that there will be a lot of people going through similar processes or that will have had similar experiences to me. So I wanted to get on here and discuss the topic of introversion and make a video, maybe putting a spotlight on some of the things that I wish I'd learned and understood when I was younger. So this is my honest review of being introverted. I also want to say that not every topic or example that we're going to speak about in this video is isolated to just introverts. I'm sure there will be a lot of extroverts that have gone through similar things and relate to what we're going to talk about. So don't click off, alright? If you're an extrovert, stick around, like the video, engage with it. Alright? And finally, I just want to clarify that one is not better than the other, of course. You can lead a happy, successful life full of self-love, whether you're extroverted or introverted. Once again, this is just a topic that has been a big focus for me. I find it very interesting and I wanted to talk about it, so I'm going to. Preface over. You're quiet. Quite possibly my two favourite words, honestly. Just the sort of stuff that makes you feel really at home, you know? Like music to my ears. It's the best, most effective way to make someone feel secure and comfortable in their environment, especially if you're in a group of people, because everyone's now aware of how quiet you're being. It's so much fun because now you have two options. You can remain quiet, and the idea that you're antisocial and shy will just be reinforced in everyone's mind now that they've been made aware of it. Or you can force yourself to speak more, giving in to the pressure, saying things you otherwise might not have wanted to say, and what was supposed to be a comfortable, productive environment where you can feel free to act as you please has now just turned into a mission to prove to everyone that yes, I have the ability to talk, I can speak, I promise. Good times. In my life, I found that being quiet is inherently a bad thing. No one has ever called me quiet in an attempt to make me feel good. I find it very often comes across as some kind of attack. Not all the time, for example, if someone's genuinely checking up on you, seeing why you're quiet, but very often it just seems to be some throwaway comment designed to make you feel uncomfortable. As I've stated, an introvert's focus is internal. That's when they recharge, and quietness naturally provides an opportunity for that internal focus. I mean, imagine trying to be within yourself in a crowded room full of people. Now, introverts are not rewarded for that in any way. They're not celebrated for what they naturally do. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. Due to the nature of the world, that solitude is not always welcome and often frowned upon. You just want to chill in your room after a day at school? Your parents might call you antisocial. At work, you want to eat lunch away from your colleagues? Now you're the outsider. And of course, you're a little too quiet in class. Now you're the boring, awkward loner. Obviously, I'm exaggerating to some extent, but you see my point. I remember when I was 11 at the park with some mates, and this girl looked at me like I'd just stepped on a shoe and said, "Why don't you say anything?" Bearing in mind, I wasn't a mute as a child. I talked to people, I had friends. I was just a little quiet sometimes. But yet, this girl took that as some kind of hate crime for whatever reason. So as we can see, it's fundamentally harder for an introvert to recharge their batteries. Because for whatever reason, people don't like it. Whereas if we take a look at the other side, extroverts, you lot have infinite opportunities to recharge your batteries. From the ages of 5 to 16, you're forced to go to school for 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. The world is fast paced, getting out there and putting your focus on things outside of yourself is absolutely necessary. An estimated 2/3 of the world's population are classed as extroverted, so it's virtually impossible for an introvert to exist without having to conform to that extrovert way of life at some point or another. Now, this is not a bad thing. I do believe that an element of extroversion is necessary for everyone if they want to lead a successful life. But as an introvert, it's important to remember this and not feel as though something is seriously wrong with you if you naturally struggle and find it hard to go with that flow of the world. I mean, I've gotten to the point where I'm pretty confident, and I still sometimes get anxious before making a phone call. You know, when you practice what you're going to say beforehand? I still do that. I even still get nervous before setting off to Muay Thai training, bearing in mind I've been training around the same people at the same gym for almost 2.5 years now. Being outgoing has never come naturally to me. I've just gotten good at throwing myself into things without thinking too much. And you might have to do the same, but it's never something you should feel ashamed of if you struggle with. And neither is being quiet. Never let anyone make you feel like less because you don't talk as often as they do. That is just a load of shit. Now I can imagine what some of you might be thinking. Dude, you've spent the entirety of this video talking confidently and articulately to an audience of potentially thousands of people. How can you call yourself introverted? Fraudulent ass. I'm glad you asked. To be clear, extroversion does not equate to confidence, and introversion does not equate to timidness. I have periods where I'm super talkative, and I also have periods where I'm relatively quiet. But during these periods, my level of confidence has not changed. The only thing that's changed is my internal battery. The quietest person in the room could be the most secure, and the loudest person in the room could be the least. The problem is, within society, the opposite is often one's perception. If you observe someone being extremely outgoing, you're inclined to think that they're confident. And if you see someone who's quiet and reserved, you're naturally going to assume that they're shy. This may not seem like a huge issue at first, but from my experience, it definitely had a large impact on the way I perceived myself. And to an extent, I would definitely call it a self-fulfilling prophecy. To start at the beginning, in early school, if you were someone who was more reserved than other kids, people are unreasonably quick to label you as a kid who's shy and a loner. When I was in secondary school, I was in a pretty popular group of extroverted people. I myself wasn't so popular, but these were just the people I hung around with. I remember there was a teacher that told my mum on a parents' evening that he wasn't sure how I'd managed to get in with this group of friends because I was quiet and unassuming. This wasn't entirely true, this was just the perception that the teacher had of me. But you can imagine it made me question myself like, damn, maybe I don't fit in as much as I thought I did. And it did knock my confidence, and involuntarily actually made me see myself as more of an awkward person. But this sort of thing was pretty common when I was growing up, even up until a couple of years ago. And now that I look back on it, it was almost as if people were handing my identity to me and saying, this is what you're like, based on a very limited amount of information. When I first met my girlfriend, she told me that she was awkward, even though I'd never got that impression of her. Turns out this was just what people at her school told her, so that was how she saw herself, that was how she identified. And I think this is why there's such a big stereotype around introverts being shy and reserved and awkward, because that's what's been drilled into them due to their natural quietness. Think about it, if you're an impressionable child that maybe isn't as outgoing as other children, and because of this everyone around you is calling you awkward, your kid brain is going to be like, well, everybody's telling me I'm this thing, so I guess I am. And that's probably what you'll begin to act like, because that's how you see yourself. You don't know any better, but that might not be your true nature. It doesn't have to be. I would say social confidence is primarily a learnt skill that's dependent on one's self-esteem and how much experience they've had in conversating with others. It's independent from whether you're introverted or extroverted. I thought that I was forever destined to be an awkward person, and it took me way too long to realize that this just wasn't the case. I'm sure there are an abundance of extroverts that don't know how to talk to people, that don't know how to navigate a conversation, just as I'm sure there's a lot of introverts that are very charismatic. The problem is, extroverts are more likely to be told that they are confident due to their more naturally outgoing nature. Therefore, they're more inclined to be so. Self-fulfilling prophecy. When I was working full-time a couple of years ago, I was quiet in the office, and people would ask me if I was shy, because I didn't talk as often as they did. Which initially made me feel as though, damn, I must just be so fucking awkward, like something is wrong with me. But funnily enough, when I did speak up a bit more, they were surprised at how much character I actually had, which then made me think, well, they were the ones that were wrong. I'm not actually as awkward as I thought I was. Which was another thing that's happened to me consistently. When I do loosen up around people, which might take a bit longer than it does for others, people are shocked to find out that I actually have a personality. But it just goes to show, introverts are not destined for a life of shyness. It is more than possible to be headstrong and confident as an introvert. You just have to decide for yourself who you are, instead of listening to what people tell you you are. And like everything else, it just might take a little practice. Let me know if this completely made up interaction looks familiar to you. Alright mate, alright. Been up to much? No, not really. Well, sometimes that's just the way it goes, innit? Yeah, sure. Tell you what though, traffic this morning was awful. Oh well, that's Monday for you, I guess. Only 4 days till Friday, then it's Saturday, and then it's Sunday, and then it's fucking Monday again. Everybody's working for the weekend and whatnot, eh? Hello? Mate? Sure. Well, I better get back to it. Nice one. Okay. I hope you enjoyed that masterpiece. I'm aware I'm the second coming of Christopher Nolan. You don't need to tell me. That was a little piece I like to call The Devil's Tongue, otherwise known as small talk, loosely based off my own experiences. Although I've gotten to a decent level of social competence, small talk is something I cannot do. For whatever reason, it's possibly the most draining thing I can put myself through. And I run. An 8-kilometer run takes less out of me than small talk. I will avoid it at all costs, either by not engaging in it full stop, or by attempting to shift the conversation into something deeper. Introverts like depth. We're fucking deep, dude, okay? You just don't understand us. Nah, but it is true that generally introverts like to focus on fewer things but in greater detail, whereas extroverts often prefer to have a wide range of focuses without exploring them too deeply. As a general rule, you could say introverts like to know a lot about a little, and extroverts like to know a little about a lot. Of course, there are exceptions, but you see the point I'm making. When we apply this to conversation, it's easy to see why an introvert such as myself would struggle with small talk. I find it pointless and forced, and I just mean like, why the fuck are we doing this to ourselves? I would rather just not talk at all. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but... Alright, well, I guess I'm not really exaggerating. But start talking to me about UFC, shawarma or fucking introversion, clearly, and I could talk for England in this bitch. And I think that might be another reason why I was awkward back in the day, because I couldn't navigate these laborious conversations. When people would talk to me in this low stakes, low importance kind of way, my mind would just go blank. And that's when people might have got the impression that I was shy, which in turn, as we've discussed in a roundabout kind of way, made me believe that I was. I now know that this is untrue. Just because I wasn't able to yap about weather and traffic doesn't mean I was shy. So next time you find that you're in a conversation cringing at yourself because you just don't know what to say, consider the fact that you've not gone deep enough, and be aware that you are in control of that. If a conversation is bland, it's up to you to spice it up. Go deeper and watch your conversations flow. This breadth and depth concept can also be applied to relationships with others. I remember wondering why I didn't have as many friendships as some of my classmates when I was in school. I remember I would try my absolute hardest to message as many people on Snapchat as possible, just so that, you know, the little red number next to your Snapchat icon would get up to like 200 or something, because that's what all of my friends had. That's what I was seeing around me. I never got close to that. I think I got to like 30 once. Thank fuck that isn't a priority for me anymore. I mean, what a waste of time. But I didn't actually talk to the majority of these people anyway, and neither did my friends. There were no meaningful conversations being had. There were no unmeaningful conversations being had. There was just nothing. I probably had like 8 really close friends that I actually spoke to on a regular basis, and now I would probably guess that I have less than that. But this isn't a complaint at all. Some of my most meaningful and memorable conversations and moments have been had with these people, and at this moment I would say I don't need any more than that. Finally, I feel as though this nature has given me more of an ability to stay committed to things. I think there's a trend in my life where everything is long and intense. I go through big phases. I played badminton for 8 years. I've been training Muay Thai for 2.5 years. I've been in a relationship with my girlfriend for almost 3 years. I rarely ever start something and put it down soon after. I'm either in or I'm out. And I do get obsessive. I can guarantee that I'll be pursuing this YouTube thing for a long time. And I know that I'm already slightly obsessed with it. But I love that aspect of myself. I have the privilege to feel things deeply and really get to know others and throw myself into activities and ambitions so that I get to experience them to their fullest and hopefully reach my potential in a lot of them. The phrase "know thyself" comes from the ancient Greeks and was a cornerstone of Greek philosophy, especially for figures like Socrates, who believed that true wisdom begins with self-knowledge. The Greeks just had it right, man. They were really chill like that. Because I fully agree. It's literally the goal of therapy. Figure out why you are the way that you are and understand the root causes of your behaviors by exploring your thoughts, emotions, and past experiences. This understanding can then guide you in developing healthier coping mechanisms and making more conscious choices. Bro, what the fuck does this have to do with introversion? Get into it, alright? Damn. If we take the characteristics we've discussed so far, those being introverts like to be within themselves and they like to explore fewer things but in further depth, it creates a nice little recipe for serious moments of self-reflection and introspection. Once again, there will be exceptions, but I would guess that introverts tend to have better knowledge of themselves, whereas extroverts might tend to have better knowledge of the world. I can confidently say that I know myself pretty well. I know that I'll lose my mind if I don't exercise for a few days. I know that I'm happiest when I'm working towards something. I know that I get doubtful if I go on my phone too much. I know exactly what to say to myself to kill that doubt. I know that I find it easier to be in small groups of 2 to 4 people rather than big ones. I know that I'm not awkward. I actually love to talk, but sometimes I just can't be fucked. I know that I've partly compensated for my introversion by doing things like getting tattoos and a mullet and wearing vests and jewellery and going to the gym because it makes me look more stereotypically extroverted. Point is, the more you know about yourself, the more you can accept about yourself. And self-acceptance is the first step to confidence, brother. If you feel comfortable in your own skin no matter what, trust me, the odd awkward conversation here and there will not and should not bother you. I've accepted that not every social interaction that I'm a part of is gonna go smoothly. They're not always gonna go perfectly. And why should they? I'm not obligated to be a social butterfly 100% of the time. But even so, I don't let it dictate my self-image. Let me stutter 100 times trying to order food, and I'll still come away unfazed. When you get to that level, that's real confidence. I went to school in the UK, and I'm sure a lot of people watching this did too. If your school was anything like mine, you'll know that any form of self-expression was immediately roasted. Like, shit was not safe. Got guitar lessons? That's Ben. Play any sport that isn't football? You must be gay. Even just like bringing an egg mayo sandwich to school, like, you just got cooked, bro. Like, allow me to eat what I want to eat, please. I remember I used to appear offline when I played Minecraft on Xbox in like year 8 just to avoid the roasting. Like, it was so dumb. God forbid I had this YouTube channel when I was in year 11, because I might have never recovered. Obviously, I'm slightly exaggerating. I had a cool friendship group, and I still talk to a lot of them now. Even the ones I don't talk to, like, I would still happily chop it up with. But that's just the nature of school, isn't it? People get ripped into. It's the name of the game, especially when you're a boy. Actually, I don't know about that. A lot of you girls are vicious too. But where I'm going with this is, I feel like the element of expression or creativity or playfulness was just drilled out of me in school. I always felt as though I had to be acting cool or tough or hard, and I think this really didn't mix well with my introversion. It's like when you throw a toaster into a bath. You're gonna get a result, but it's just not the one you want. But yeah, after I left school, I always had this idea ingrained into my head that I had to present and portray myself in a certain way. And that's probably a big reason as to why I was quiet at work, and why I didn't always feel comfortable talking to people that I didn't know, because I thought the whole world was like school. However, by getting to know myself and coming to terms with who I am, I did begin to get more outspoken and say what I thought more often. I guess you could kind of call it exposure therapy. You know, like them people with irrational fears? I did A-level psychology, and one time we did a lesson about this guy that was just shit scared of baked beans. And to treat this guy, they firstly exposed him with like a cutout of a picture of baked beans. Then they might have put him in a room with a baked bean, then a tin of beans. Then I guess he got to the point where he could sit and eat some baked beans, I don't know, but the point is, the more he exposed himself, the more he realized that the beans actually weren't a threat. They weren't a danger to his life. And it's similar to what I went through, I guess. The more I exposed myself to conversation, the more I forced myself to say what I thought, the more I said yes to things, the more YouTube videos I uploaded, the more I made shit jokes, the more I realized that ain't none of this gonna hurt me. It'll only faze me if I allow it to. And sure, people might say shit behind closed doors, I really don't know, but no one has ever said anything to my face that wasn't positive. And if someone did say something that was negative one day, I guess it would probably say more about them than me. This whole video I've been preaching that introversion is not a bad thing, and it really isn't. But I am going to finish off by saying I became more comfortable with my introversion when I forced myself to be more stereotypically extroverted. As an introvert, I've always got loads of shit going through my head, and I deserve to let them out. And so do you. Nothing bad is going to happen if you do. Trust me. If I had to sum up the messages of this video into one sentence, I would say nurture your nature. Understand why you are the way that you are and why you do certain things. Cater to that, and then you'll find yourself more willing to step outside your comfort zone. More willing to step outside what you already know. Altogether, I would give being introverted a what lies behind you and what lies in front of you pales in comparison to what lies inside of you. Out of 10. For those of you that are interested, some of the quotes that you read, or at least the quotes that you should have read, if you didn't, then come on bro, look at the screen, engage with the video, were from a book called The Introvert Advantage: How to Thrive in an Extrovert World by Marty Olson Laney. Without my knowledge, this absolute diamond of a book has been laying in my house for over 2 decades, and when I told my mum that I was planning on making a video on the topic of introversion, she kindly recommended it to me. Thanks mum. Definitely wouldn't have been useful to have had sooner. Crazy gatekeeping. Because this book is incredible, simply. It's helped tremendously in the creation of this video. It's very relatable and easy to read, and I would seriously recommend it to anyone who feels as though their introversion is a problem, because it definitely doesn't have to be like that, as we've discussed. So even if you got nothing else out of this video, at minimum you are now aware that this exists, and you have access to it. You're welcome. If you made it to the end of this video, 1, I would be very impressed, and 2, if you enjoyed it, then please leave a like. It goes incredibly far, you have no idea. And if you want to see more, I do upload regularly, so make sure to subscribe. And let me know what you thought in the comments down below. If you're an introvert, do you relate to any of these experiences? If you're an extrovert, do you relate to any of these experiences? Let me know what your take is on the whole discussion. I'd be very interested to hear. But yeah, that's it.